good. Even with a broken jaw and the way that the fight turned out, I did the 5-minute rounds no problem. The minutes of the rounds weren't an issue. My conditioning, I was training for 5-minute rounds with 20 seconds recovery. So that's what got me through with a broken jaw, was that good of training. If you want to be looked at as a professional athlete and taken seriously, it's all in your training. You know, if they wanted to start doing 8-minute rounds, then you just train for 8-minute rounds. You know what I mean? That's not an issue.
See, I think it is.
I do too, because we just watched
at each level. We just watched Gina Carano fight on Elite XC on CBS. They fought 3-minute rounds.
Right.
So why is Gina, who's much more experienced than you are, fighting 3-minute rounds?
That's just something that Pro Elite does. That's their decision. She has actually fought 5-minute rounds before.
Yeah.
She fought twice at the Orleans. She did 3 5-minute rounds.
See, I think it's safer. I think there are safety issues with the women's fighting. I mean, I know you guys want to deny this, but I think there are.
Well,
especially early on in your career. We're talking to Kim Couture. She's nice enough to come down to Mandalay Bay, and we were talking a lot about women's fighting on Monday, and we did get a lot of texts and calls saying we were sexist.
I probably am.
And Kim had a rough go of it in her debut against another woman who was making her debut in Kim Rose, and I thought that was one of the factors. I actually, well, you're the one who was in there, so you can tell us how you felt. I thought you looked winded by the middle of the second round.
I didn't look winded. I was just choking on a lot of blood. I had a lot of blood in my mouth. So.
And so shorter rounds wouldn't help that?
No. I wasn't in trouble. You know what I mean? It's like, you guys, honestly, for people who have never done this sport, I don't expect you guys to understand. I just want you to hear me out and listen from a fighter's perspective. And
I've been around boxing my whole life, and I did box on amateur. I sucked, but I want to make it clear, I did do it.
Okay.
And I do think there are stamina issues. You can compare training. We hear lots of people who train hard. You can train for 5 and 7-minute rounds. We just saw it with Kimbo Slice. I have no doubt in my mind that Kimbo Slice trains his ass off. Once you get in the ring, I mean, you know this better than we do, but you know, with Randy. But once you get in the ring, the conditioning's it's a different issue. You can train for as much as you want, but sometimes you go in there and you get a little gas quicker than you expected.
I didn't feel gassed at all. I felt like just dealing with the blood was the only issue I had.
Yeah.
And the blood didn't bother me. You know, I felt confident. At the end of each round, they asked me if I was fine. I was like, I know I can beat this girl. I felt strong. I felt stronger than her. I could take her down at will. My issue was once I'd take her down, okay, the initial drawing of taking her down, you know, hurt. And then when she'd pull my head down, I knew I had to clear my head. Everything was just slow motion. I couldn't do anything fast because I felt my jaw in 3 different pieces. I needed to move at my own pace and work to try and get a submission.
See, I think that's where the issue, and Dave can back me up on this one. When you're fighting, I mean, I think 99% of fighters are going to say they're fine. That was another issue we had, is either it was Randy or the official or someone needs to be the objective person. I think the fighter always believes they can continue to go on in spite of the injury.
But I could, and I did.
Well,
it would have been nice to pull off a win, but you know, had I had won, would you feel different?
Yeah. If you were winning, I think if you were more competitive, yeah, absolutely. I think you were taking her down at will. You had a couple of nice, you know, essentially judo throws or trips, but I think a lot of the time was spent on the ground, kind of.
But do you
holding her down?
No. Do you understand the ground game? If you watched it again, I wasn't staying still. I was trying to get out of half guard. I was putting my forearm across her neck to secure her there.
Right.
And working to get the choke. When the choke didn't work, I tried something else. And then at one point, I postured up. I think in a couple of the rounds, I postured up and just tried to rain down punches. But I knew what I was doing. I was clear-headed.
Was there were you examined during the fight by a physician at all?
I don't remember.
See, I think that part is shocking too. If your jaw was broken 5 seconds into the fight, to never go,
be honest with you,
to never stop in the middle of a round, and at least have someone check it.
I don't think you could tell. I think everybody thought that my nose was broke, and that's where the blood was coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the doctor can tell. I mean, if a boxer, an experienced fighter, if it happens this Saturday, you get 2 world-class fighters in there, Diaz and Pacquiao. If one of them gets his jaw broken, that fight's going to get stopped.
Or at least it's going to get looked at.
Well,
it's bleeding all over the place. You're saying you're choking on blood and no one notices it?
If the doctor determines there's a broken jaw, the fight's over. That, to me, is... and this is what I said on Monday. And I truly believe this. Had your fight taken place where Gina's fight was, on CBS, with a monster audience, I think it would have done the entire sport a great deal of harm. And I believe that.
So do I. It would have been a disaster. Because because we cover fighting, we cover boxing, we cover MMA, so believe me, we have the stomach for just about anything. If that had been a mainstream fight, do you know what the average person would have done? How much they would have capitalized on that?
It's too bad, though, because we've come so far and we just need to educate people. That's why I came on here today, is to tell people I'm okay. And I would have been really upset if the fight would have been stopped. You know,
Well, you're supposed to be upset. You're one of the competitors.
But I felt confident in what I was doing. It wasn't enough to win the fight, but I felt comfortable in there. I was coherent. My equilibrium was a little bit off, so I knew boxing wasn't going to be my strength that night. But that's the wonderful thing about MMA. There's so many other styles that you can go to. There's plenty other tools in my tool belt that I could pull out to finish that fight. And I just want to tell you guys that, you know, I don't want the people to look down on this this fight or women fighting, because I'm here to tell you that I'm okay. I was okay there. I would have been really upset if they would have stopped the fight, and, you know, it would have been great to pull off that win. And I think that you guys maybe would feel differently if I would have won. Blood doesn't freak me out. You know, last time I was on the show, I told you guys I grew up on a ranch. I spent my whole life rodeoing. I've had more broken bones, injuries, train wrecks with my horses, and you don't see people out there going, girls shouldn't be allowed to ride horses.
I think the other part of it is you're attractive, and we got into this debate on if you weren't so attractive. We saw you, in person before the fight. Maybe that wouldn't bother us as much. I was still bothered. It matters
on a grand scale.
I'm not going to rip on Caitlin Young. Maybe she's not as attractive as you. It bothered me. I still didn't like it.
And you know what? I talked to her after the fight, and she felt great.
Yeah.
We go in there. This is a combat sport. We go in there knowing what to expect. We're trained for this. And I've had practices that looked way worse than my fight the other day. You know, Gina broke my nose. A nice uppercut. And my nose exploded, and it was all over the mat and my shirt and everything else. And you know what? It's just, we're all used to it. Nobody blinks an eye. Everybody's like, you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. Wipe it up, and you go back to sparring. You know, it's
See, that creeps me out.
So it's just not for everybody.
Right. If you want to stand in front of the athletic commission with a sign that said unfair to women, I'd stand right there with you. Because I think it's your right to do it. I just don't like it, that's all.
Yeah. I think it's still, it's taken this long for the men to get accepted and get the audience that they have now. We're a lot farther behind the guys. They're just accepting it at mainstream for the guys. And, we got some catching up to do as women.
That's a good point. That one I got to give you, because still a lot of the mainstream media thinks the whole MMA thing is barbaric and it should go away. So you're right on that count. Yeah.
I just want people to understand that we're very well trained and that this stuff happens in practice. If it was something that were, harmful or scared me or dangerous, I would have quit before I would have ever had a fight, because I've been practicing this for a long time now. So I just don't want my fight to be the one that sets people back, because, I'm okay. I was happy with it. And you know what? I encourage people to watch it a second time. The people that were there live,
I'm definitely not doing that.
They were in shock because of the blood, but, and I was upset about the loss. But when I went back and watched it on YouTube, I felt much better about it. I did a lot of great things for being on autopilot. I was impressed that my mind was working that quick. Still pretty slow, but quicker than I expected.
Did I read this correctly? Sherdog was saying that you, maybe, I don't know if you said this or someone else said it, but when you got hit with the first punch, and that's the one that broke your jaw, right?
Yeah.
The first one, that you were trying to touch gloves?
Yeah. When you start a fight, every fight I've ever seen, unless they're really big rivals, you walk out to the center, you touch gloves, and you get ready to fight.
I've seen it happen before.
I watched the video, Kim. It didn't look like you were trying to touch gloves.
But don't do it if you.
I was just
don't
watching
do that
it
anymore.
I was just watching it. It didn't look like you were trying to touch gloves. So maybe that's where she was confused.
No, I had my right hand up and my left hand out, and I could tell as soon as she started coming to me that she was not going to slow down to touch gloves.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have enough time to pull that arm back up quick enough.
All right.